Hey everybody, welcome back to the Star Wars role-playing game, Edge of the Empire. We're playing the beginner game and we're about to wrap up the cantina scene. There's been a fight, the heroes have won, and they're getting ready to leave. Jason Ellis, who plays Pash, the smuggler, he says Pash hops the bar and slides his blaster pistol into its holster. He grabs a drink from the bar and walks over to the unconscious Gamorrean and takes a swig of the purplish concoction before pouring the rest over the pig's head. So there he is. You tell that no good, slimy, double-crossing Timo. There's more where that came from. Pash drops the glass on the floor and heads towards the door. He pauses and turns to the bartender and tosses him a coin. Sorry about the mess. Well, as Pash is about to leave, Odd Gunner, who's playing Oscara, she says, not so fast, Pash. There's still one issue here to be resolved. She walks towards the bar and sits down, laying her carbine on the counter, pointed directly at the bartender. I assume, she says, patting the stock of her rifle, that your entertainer is not a slave and free to go if she prefers. You see, I have some problems with slavers, particularly those that keep Twi'leks. It reminds me too much of home. She glances at Lowrick, hoping for support from her gladiator, from the former gladiator slave. So, she continues to the bartender with a cold stare, what's it going to be? She stands up and picks up her rifle, pointing it at the stomach of the bartender, and puts her finger on the trigger. So let's assume that these two are hopping over the bar as well. Well, Pash steps back over. He says, Oscara, we don't have time for that. Or did you forget we just killed 3 of Timo's thugs and roughed up the 4th? Pash worriedly glances at the door of the cantina, looking to see if any of the other Denzians of SWEotE have taken notice of the recent commotion in the cantina. I'm trying to get us off this dust ball alive, but we need to get our hands on that hypermatter reactor igniter before Timo hears of our handiwork and sends someone more dangerous. Daniel Reed is playing the Wookiee. He gave me a great reminder here as we're all learning how to play this game, and it's about Wookiee rage. I totally missed this during the last encounter, during the combat scene. But when he's wounded, the Wookiee's going to deal +1 damage with all melee and brawling based attacks. And if he's critically injured, it's +2 with such attacks. So it wouldn't have changed the outcome at all. He did enough damage to take down the Gamorrean, but in the future it might be very important to remember this. +1 damage when he's been wounded. Well, Daniel Campen is playing Vex. He says, while Pash and Oscara argue, Vex leans down and pulls a medkit out of the compartment in his abdomen. As he's done many times for Lowrick before, he begins to work on the small wounds the Wookiee has taken, seeking to heal some of his 4 wound points. He's going to use his med kit on the Wookiee. So let's see what a medical check is like. Well, we can take a look in the rule book here about the medicine check difficulty. It's based on how badly hurt the target character is. So if the current wounds, which are only 4 for the Wookiee, are equal to half or less than his wound threshold, it's an easy check. And that's what we've got. So it should be an easy check, only 1 difficulty die. A med pack allows for the character to attempt this medicine check, but it grants him a boost die. So it's got a really good chance of helping the Wookiee out. Evidently, for each success rolled, I believe one of the wounds is removed. So here's Vex and his medicine. is right there. Really good. 2 proficiency dice and 2 ability dice, so a nice pool there, plus he's going to get a boost die. Alright, so 1 difficulty die, 2 proficiency dice, 2 ability dice, and a boost die. Let's give it all a roll and see how he does. 5 successes and 1 triumph. Wow. Well, with such a great roll, that's going to take the Wookiee's wounds all the way to 0. And with that triumph, I've been kind of thinking about what to do there. Why don't we just let Oskara and Pash each recover a strain? They're just kind of comforted to know that their companion, their friend here, is on the mend and is going to be at full full health when they adventure off to the next place. So just kind of a relief that everybody's all right and ready to go. So that's going to take Oskara from 4 strain down to 3, and Pash will go down to 1 strain. And Vex and Lorik are 0, 0, 0, 0. No strain, no wounds. All right. Well, Oskara continues to talk to Pash. Pash, that dancer could have been my sister, or me, Oskara cries out. She's nervously shifting the weight on her feet, glancing at the Wookiee. So she's really wanting to let the Wookiee decide here if he's going to help her out to get that bartender to agree to let the Twi'lek go. Well, the Wookiee kind of steps over here next to Oskara after he's patched up. Daniel Reed says that Lorik stares at the body of the now dead Gamorrean. The vibro axe gently vibrates in his massive hands. His mind drifts to Kashyyyk, his home world, and he sees his young sister. Lorik made a choice right there. He would fight for injustice. He would fight for those that did not have the power to defend themselves. He heard his friends arguing, and once again rage began to boil to the surface. Lorik silenced the crowd with his massive voice and began to speak, glaring at the bartender. Even if you did not understand Wookiee, the message was clear. The Twi'lek was to be set free. Well, since this isn't exactly a key component to the main story, we can just role play through this scene. The posts were great. We'll assume that the bartender, not wanting any more trouble from this group, agrees. And in fact, he's probably this girl belongs to Teemo anyway, and so she is free to go. So count that as a success. The Twi'lek's been set free, along with Oskara's conversation with the bartender and the Wookiee's supportive argument and intimidating size and demeanor. So the Twi'lek slave is free. We will now move on and prepare you for the next scene at the junkyard. By the way, I think Vex now has used his med pack, so that will be taken off the inventory. Well, here we were at the cantina, and the group is heading out of the cantina past this off-world traders section of SWEotE and heads in to the junk shop to see if they can find the part they need. Here's a pulling back a bit of a view of the area. Teemo's palace is right over here, and we've got a couple of landing bays and the spaceport control center and just kind of different areas around here. So we'll take them one at a time. We're at the junk shop. That's where we'll go now. The junk shop is immediately obvious by the scrapyard adjoining the low, poor stone building. As you step inside, you see a hunched old human male lurking behind a low counter covered with disassembled droid and machine parts. The man glances up at you. then returns to a garbage can shaped R5 droid standing at his side. He kicks the droid and shrieks, "You're supposed to tell me when I have customers, you old bucket of bolts. Go outside and finish stripping that speeder bike wreck." The droid trundles off with a surly boop, and the man turns to you. "Welcome, customers. As you can see," he points at the racks and shelves, an enormous bucket full of scrap metals and parts. "I have anything you could want, for the right price." Well, let's briefly make sure that we've got our intentions clear. You guys are here to get that hypermatter reactor igniter. It's a ship part that's going to be necessary for you to install on the damaged ship that you're going to try to steal and take off from the planet. The ship you're trying to take is called the Crate Fang. Captain Trex, who owns the Crate Fang, he's a Transdoshan, so it kind of looks like this this big lizard guy here. Trex stops into SWEotE a few times a year, and his ship is an old YT-1300 light freighter. They're pretty good ships if you can keep them running. Well, you know what you need to do, and you're heading in there and you start to talk to Vorn. And of course, the first thing you're going to mention is you need the hypermatter reactor igniter. But Vorn says, "No, I've already promised this to Captain Trex of the Crate Fang." Well, you quickly find out that the hypermatter igniter reactor, I think it's nicknamed here HMRI, it's been promised to Trex for 500 credits. So let's talk about, or kind of take some suggestions from the adventure book about what you may want to do to acquire this item. Well, one thing that you could do is just simply to offer to pay more for the part. See if you can purchase it anyway, even though it's been promised to Trex. That would require some negotiation. Just looking through your character folios here, Pash and Oscara each have a pool of the 3 green ability dice, but interesting that Vex here, he's only going to be rolling 2 dice, but one of those is a proficiency die, so he's going to have a yellow and a green. So it's kind of up to you who you want to have if try to negotiate here with Vorn. Probably not the Wookiee. He's only going to have 2 green in this situation. But that's if you want to go the negotiation route. Let's talk about some other options. Another option you have here is to say that, hey, we work for Trex. He sent us here to get this from you. And that's just deceit. So let's see who's the best at that. Clearly looking at the folios, Pash is the man who is best to attempt a deceit roll. Another way to try to get the part would be to attempt to sweet talk or charm Vorn into selling it to you anyway. And this would be a charm check. Pash the smuggler once again has the best chance to do this. Another option would be some sort of intimidation. You know, if you don't sell us or give us this part, we're going to hurt you. And that's a coerce check. And let's take a look and see who would be best at that. Well, Oscara, Pash, and the Wookiee Lorik all have the same coerce pools, which is 2 ability dice. And depending upon how you're doing it, let's say if it was the Wookiee attempting to physically intimidate, I might grant you a boost die or something. Well, there are other options, maybe something else that I didn't mention or maybe didn't read from here in the book, but another very obvious one is you could try to steal it somehow, and that's going to be a skullduggery check. And you might have already guessed, Pash has the best chance to pull that off. with a pool of 3 ability dice, 3 green. Alright, well, talk it over, guys, and decide how you want to go about this, what you want to try, and maybe what you want to say. Remember, you don't have to do a lot of dialogue. Do as much as you want to do, and I'll be happy to share it with everybody on the video. But if you're in a press for time, you can just tell me what your intentions are, and I'm going to try to intimidate, I'm going to try to charm him, and we can move on from there. Like I said, we're kind of doing this in between a full RPG and a board game. So talk it over, decide which one of you is going to try what, and we'll move forward from here. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll continue the story soon.